Welcome to this segment of Farm Show TV. My guest today is no stranger to TV and certainly no stranger to agriculture. For 30 years, Bob Simpson was the host of CTV's Farmgate. He has officially hung up his boots, but he joins us in studio today out of retirement. I can't thank you enough for coming today, Bob.
It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Much appreciated.
So first off, how does it feel to be in the hot seat when you hosted the show for 3 decades?
Totally different, of course. You'll be asking the questions and I'll have to answer them, so it'll be a lot different.
I have so many tough questions
I bet you do.
lined up for you. This is fun for me on so many levels, Bob. I grew up watching Farmgate, and it was really the only program in Saskatchewan that was dedicated to the issues affecting farming and ranching and the agriculture industry. It was coveted. Everyone watched Farmgate. Can you talk to us a little bit about the popularity of the show?
Yeah, and great ratings all the way through, sometimes up a little bit, but for the most part, it was pretty static. But you know, our audience was not just rural Saskatchewan people, it was urban Saskatchewan people too. We live in a province that's agriculture based, so people from in the countryside and in the city were watching carefully all the time.
The show ran before the onset of social media. So now I feel like we can get news about agriculture whenever we need it. It's not always the stories that we want to hear about, but we've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, we've got Google, and we've got all kinds of access to shows. But for you, as you know, the creative mindset behind the stories that you would put on Farmgate, how challenging was it for you to piece together those shows?
Very challenging. For the most part, I was a one-man show, so I'd have a running file going into every week, and if there was something I had to cover, I'd go cover it. And you know, I had great resources too. There were resources at the universities. I could go find stories out of there too as well. So it was very challenging, but it was rewarding too. I enjoyed agriculture immensely and still do. But like you say, it's changed immensely now too because we have social media. I think people are picking up stuff off of social media. Some of it not the greatest information. I don't think it's true, a lot of it. But I mean, that's another issue too as well, I guess.
Do you have a farm background yourself, Bob?
I do. I grew up on a farm near Brooks, Alberta. It was a mixed farm. We had cattle, we had sheep, we had grain, we grew grain. So I got a good taste of agriculture there. And then I went to university, took some agriculture. Then I went into broadcasting school and took broadcasting as well. So.
Very good. I think without question your background in agriculture helped you be such an incredible journalist and be able to share the narrative that was the agriculture at the time.
Probably. I mean, obviously you can learn things too as you go, but it certainly did help. I mean, obviously agriculture is such a vast industry. There's so many things you have to learn, and if you have that base that you grew up on a farm, it helps a lot.
So I guess for the challenge that we have now on Farm Show TV is the access to the show. You know, people don't just tune in specifically to watch it. They can watch it whenever, it's on demand. They can watch it whenever they like. So we have to put together content that is relatable. And just like with Farmgate, for me as a farmer, I want it to be relatable to my farming peers. I want the industry to take ownership in the show. But we also have a consuming audience. We have the general public that is watching, and I would suggest that there's quite a lens on agriculture today and on the food industry. How have you seen the narrative change from when you were at Farmgate to what you see in the stories today about agriculture?
Changed again immensely. The whole industry has changed, and you know, there's less farmers. Farms have got bigger, and issues they've changed. I mean, obviously now we have, you know, things like glyphosate, the whole controversy about glyphosate, and those kind of things have to be science-based. And I don't know if a lot of people realize it, but we have to have those issues have to be science-based. Otherwise, you know, the farming industry is in lots of trouble. So there are things out there that have to be dealt with, and through the internet, they're not getting a lot of that information, I don't think. So, yeah.
Well, I would say host to host that the challenge we have is a lot of these issues are incredibly complex. as you suggest, they are science-based. So when a network says, you've got 3 minutes, go and tell this controversial story that's out there today, and do it the best you can and make sure that consumers understand it at the end, it's challenging for us to try to wrap up that whole story in that short time period.
It certainly is, and I think part of the farmers should be on base with this too. They have to educate the public out there, and it's their job to educate the public, and I think they have to get together through organizations, through your Farm Show TV, and try to get that message out there that we have to educate the public out there that the farming industry is safe, we're doing things right, and I think they have to do that for sure.
I've seen in my farming career, farmers have gone from probably at the start of Farmgate, you would have seen it too, there was a humility about farmers. We were quite humble people, and I would suggest not a lot of pride in the industry. I know when I first came back to the family farm, there was not a lot of excitement for what agriculture was to be. There was not a lot of young people coming back to Saskatchewan to farm. And now I've seen this real sense of pride in the industry. When I speak with my farming colleagues, young and old, they're quite proud of the industry. We've decided that it's okay to be proud of the industry. And now, we have this obligation to talk about what we do on a regular basis, kind of add that to our list. But what would you suggest are some of the topics that you're seeing and reading about that would be interesting and pertinent to the industry?
Well, environmental sustainability is one issue that should be covered, I think. The whole issue about renewable fuels too. The farmers nowadays, they're going to be dealing with, if we're going into a situation where renewable energy is going to take over and we're going to see less and less emphasis on fossil fuels, the cost of farming are going to go up. And I'm not sure what direction we're going with that. But those kind of issues have to be covered. For sure, those are two.
Not only was I a viewer of Farmgate, but I was interviewed by you on Farmgate a number of times, so this is kind of cool for me to be on the other side of it. You're kind of like the Oprah Winfrey of agriculture news. Would you own that one?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, you can have a car. I don't have that ability to do like Oprah does, but yeah, first,
give me a car?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I remember my first adventure into agricultural policy was as president of the Western Canadian Wheat Growers Association. And it was our job as an association to advocate for positive changes to the business of agriculture. And I remember we had a young board of directors, and we didn't have things like media training. We didn't know that there was certain ways to tell a story. All we knew was that we were farmers, we had issues affecting the farm, and we must influence those that can help us change these stories. Do you remember some of those interviews with young farmers coming out with no experience? Did you feel for us a little bit?
I did. Oh, for sure. And a lot of farmers, like you say, are humble people, and so they're not up to date on media things too as well. So yeah, I'm sure that they felt out of place doing that. But I tried to make them at ease as much as I could do, and I think for the most part we did that. But nowadays, like you say, things are different. So they have to be social media savvy now. And that's all part of being a farmer too, as well. So
yeah, it's kind of another thing that we have to add to
Yes.
our to-do list. Well, it's so fun for me to have you here today and to share some of this experience. And wondering if you have any sage advice for our team at Farm Show TV as we try our best to emulate what you so valiantly did for 30 years and try to share some positive stories about the industry. Any advice for us?
Well, I mean, I was with a network, and that's changed dramatically. The farmers are not getting their information from a large network anymore, obviously, so they're getting it through Farm Show TV or on the internet and anything. But I think what you have to do for sure is keep ahead of what's important in the farming industry week to week, and know what's going on and try to cover stories that matter to the farmers out there. And also tap into resources, like the University of Saskatchewan has all kinds of resource people there to tap into. I would look to them to get information and story ideas. Just basically try to feel what the farmers out there want to know and go after it if you can.
Yeah, there's no shortages of issues for us to cover, and we're hoping to get some good feedback too. I'm dying to know if you got feedback from your audience on any particular show. Were they often sending you feedback about the show, or just when you'd make them mad?
Both, I guess, yeah, positive and negative. But I guess when we did specials, like every time we covered Agribition or Farm Progress Show or Crop Production Week, it was a show that was just about that particular event. We got feedback on those shows a lot because people, hey, that's pretty cool. They'd see the innovations at Farm Progress, and they'd like that kind of stuff too as well. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, Bob. It's such a pleasure to visit with you again, kind of a trip back in time for me. I thoroughly enjoyed watching Farmgate, and I've talked to a lot of people about your show over the last week or so in anticipation of the interview, so they're excited to see you again too.
Oh, thank you, and good luck with your show too as well. And I got something here to pass along to you too as well. I'm passing my boots to you because my work boots, it's to you.
These are the boots you hung up. Wow, I think it looks like there's still canola seed in the bottom.
There might be, yeah. Likely. A lot of dust in there too, I think.
Thank you for these boots, Bob. I will wear them with pride. Really appreciate all of your time and energy, and thank you for this.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this segment of Farm Show TV. You can watch this segment and all others on our website, canadasfarmshow.com. We'll see you there.
When it all comes down to it, good times are what you make of them. Why not pour yourself a great tasting Western Brewed Original 16? For a refreshing reminder, don't sweat the small stuff. Embrace it.
Norbin's innovative product is a leading solution in the agriculture industry across North America. Unaerated grain inherently becomes a real problem for every farmer because the grain will start rotting, fermenting, or molding, and your price goes down. There's all those inherent problems that come with spoilage in the bin.
So that's why we try to find a product that will solve that problem and ventilate all the grain inside of the bin. That's why we came up with the Norbin full flow air system. That eliminates any dead pockets there. That will give you a full airflow through all the bin while the grain is inside the bin.
Just knowing that we have produced a full floor aeration system for in a hopper is a great relief to a lot of the guys that are using it. And I think it's also a great benefit for those that are considering buying it. One very common comment, where were you guys 40 years ago? It's about time somebody did this.
We create the air system with louvered perforated sheets, and the louvers are all facing down, so there's no grain laying directly on side of the perforations. Therefore, you need a lot less static pressure to push the air through the grain. So therefore, then your fan has to work way less, because the same horsepower fan will produce double the airflow versus a flat bottom bin or any other conventional air system in a hopper. Both of my brothers, Adolf and Albert, they're both part of the crew when we were assembling bins across the prairies. And all three of us, we came together and we said we're going to design this product that's going to solve this problem for farmers. We've tested a lot of flat bottom bins, also hopper bottom bins with air system in there. It's different when the bin is empty. The airflow is one way, but as soon as it's in grain, then it takes a total different path. It always takes the path of least resistance. So we did a lot of testing there. Also, we talked to a bunch of different types of engineers and farmers to try to get the best opinions out there to put a good system together.
I've been with the guys from the onset of our first bin setup, and to see customers come back and really appreciate the product and also come back as repeat customers has been a very exciting time in this company. And if a farmer has an existing hopper that they would like to put our air system into, we can also retrofit into any existing hopper, whether it's a welded smooth wall hopper or whether it's an existing bolt together system. The assembly of our Norbin hopper generally is done on site, and it can be done by the farmer, or we can send a crew in to do it as well. We're a small company. If a customer needs service or backup or support for our product, we're here to help them.
Best way to contact is you go to norbin.ca and you'll find phone numbers and emails there to contact us directly, and we'll guide you through from there.
Bread, crackers, energy bars, waffles, omega-3 eggs, pet food, and more are connected to Regina. What do they all have? Flax. Canmar Foods is the largest flax processor in North America, traceable from the farm to your breakfast. From Regina, we make things tastier. We are growing the impossible.
We're back. I'm standing here on the grounds at Evraz Place, home to Canada's Farm Show for more than 44 years. We're excited to welcome back our visitors, our partners, and our exhibitors. If you wish to be exhibitor at Canada's Farm Show, registration is now open. Go to canadasfarmshow.com and place your registration. We're going to see you here in June. We look forward to welcoming back all of our exhibitor partners to the show. We've got plenty of room to grow and be innovative in your booth and exhibitor space. There are many exhibitor opportunities and benefits. We are Canada's largest interconnected indoor event complex with over 1.9 million square feet. We have flexible display space for vendors of any size. We are an indoor show. That means weatherproof and air conditioned. We've had no increase in rates for the last 5 years and will maintain that for the 2022 registration. In attendance are producers and international buyers from more than 50 countries. We have over 3,000 parking spots on site, including some premium parking availability. Ask us about the opportunity to host large on-site events during the show in the Brand Center and Mosaic Stadium, as well as meeting rooms in Queensbury Convention Center. Exhibitor registration for 2022 is now open. Head over to our website to book your booth space, canadasfarmshow.com.
Hi, welcome to Degelman Industries. Come on in.
Thank you. Welcome to this segment of Canada's Farm Show. I'm joined here today with Derek Molnar, Territory and Marketing Manager of Degelman Industries right here in Regina. Derek, thank you so much for inviting me here. As a farmer myself, it's always cool to have a tour of the factory, and there has been Degelman equipment on my family farm for longer than I've been around. So it's pretty cool to take a tour through the factory and see what you're working on today. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to hear. I'm glad you guys were able to stop by, and it's always fun when you can see where the equipment kind of gets made before it ends up on your yard.
Especially because it's built right here in Saskatchewan.
That's right.
So I want to get into some of the history around Degelman, but first I want to know a little bit more about you. Tell me about your background and how long you've been with Degelman, and what's a day in the life for Derek?
Yeah, I started working for Degelman back in 2008 when they had a distributor down in Minot, North Dakota. I went down there for school and to play some football. Originally born and raised in Regina, went down there for a bit and worked for them until 2013 when Degelman made their own manufacturing facility in Hillsborough, and I moved back north, back home, and now I work out of Martinsville, Saskatchewan, where I handle the northern part of Saskatchewan as a territory, and then do the marketing for Degelman as well.
Very good. So there is the factory here in Saskatchewan, and there's still an operating factory down in the U.S. as well?
Correct, yeah, Hillsborough, North Dakota. We've been expanding there for the last few years. We're manufacturing dozer blades, land rollers, and Pro Tills, and we're actually hoping to expand a little bit more just to meet the high demand that we're facing down in the U.S., so it's been pretty exciting times down there.
So Degelman is not a new startup company. I think based on your website and some of the great history that you have on your site, it was Wilf Degelman that started the company back in
1962.
And by the sounds of it, it was the rock picker that made him famous and got the ball rolling. But you certainly have a longer product line since the original rock picker. Can you tell us a bit about what the product line's like?
Yeah, we've definitely expanded from that first real type rock picker back in 1962 and out of Raymore, Saskatchewan. And over the last decade, we've really kind of dipped our toes into the tillage market with our ProTill high-speed, high-performance disc. That's really opened up a big area for us to work with, especially into the Midwestern United States and other areas as well. And the experience that we're having with the tillage market is allowing us to put that towards some of our other products, like our heavy harrows with our new Strawmaster Plus and our new disc harrow Strawmaster X.
I made a few phone calls and was messaging people about what my schedule looked like for Farm Show coming up. And every time I mentioned I was coming to Degelman, there was one common word when I asked them about their own experiences with Degelman, and it was tough. It was always just tough equipment if they gave me a simple answer. And actually, I was on a phone call with my dad this morning, and I was telling him what I was coming to tour the Degelman factory, and he told me there was been Degelman equipment on his farm since before he farmed, that my grandpa had a rock picker and a dozer and all of these other things, and he described it as bulletproof. And I come from a family of hunters, so we could probably test that if you needed to, but it sounds pretty accurate.
Yeah, when Wilf started everything with a really simple mantra of building things simple, building things tough, and building it right the first time. And we've always, anytime we've developed products, we've always kept that in the forefront of our mind. Everything from the welds we put on our machine, the tubing, we build everything as big as we can without overdoing it. You want to go big, but you don't need to overdo it to make yourself feel tough. And then simple things like including quick start manuals so that when that implement gets delivered on a Saturday afternoon, you're ready to rock on a Sunday morning when it's time to go. And just the simple blue marks you'll see to see that the torque is done properly. So we want to make owning a Degelman a high level experience. And yeah, we've always thought of ourselves as a premier manufacturer, and we like to build things heavy and tough so that it does last. It's really cool to see that we have 570p pickers from the 70s still running in the field. So it's pretty incredible to see that stuff.
Not only are they still running, but I believe that some of them are priced higher than they were originally brand new.
Yes.
Because they're still a worthy piece of equipment in the marketplace today. So I think that's a true testament.
Yeah, it's always kind of interesting to see at auctions and just online at what things are going for now and the value of what a new one is. And it's just a testament to what Degelman's been doing for 60 years now. So
how many employees does Degelman have here at the Regina factory?
I think we're close to 200 at the Regina factory, and then I think we employ another 50 or so down to the US. So I think our company's sitting around that 250 employee mark as of last year.
And would you be experiencing some of the same labor issues that some of the other industries are experiencing here in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, Degelman's definitely not immune to everything that's going on in the year 2021, right? With be it supplier shortages or work labor shortages, and we're managing as well as we can. But yes, it's been a difficult year in that sense on a manufacturing side. And I think that a lot of manufacturers and dealers even that are dealing with some of these other big time manufacturers can basically tell you that, yeah, it's been tough to get iron.
Yeah, there's certainly been issues not only pulling people into the industry, but also some of the manufacturing materials that you're using will suffer the consequences of the pandemic, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know. Shopping for a truck's the same way right now. Some of those lots are ghost towns, and it's really any industry, and agriculture is no different.
So the relationship that Canada's Farm Show has had with Degelman is a long one. In fact, I believe, as the story goes, in 1978 was the first show. It was originally called Western Canada Farm Progress Show, and it was shortened to Farm Progress Show, and now it is Canada's Farm Show.
So in 20 years, it'll just be Farm Show.
We might just keep on shortening it.
And then in 20 more years, it'll just be Show.
Possibly. We could just start referring to it as just the show. Yeah. And Degelman has been an exhibitor of the show for all of that time. From the very beginning, for 44 years, Degelman has been an exhibitor at Canada's Farm Show. And so we certainly appreciate you as an exhibitor. The Regina Exhibition Association Limited, REAL, is a not-for-profit organization, so the money that is generated there stays here in the province. So we appreciate your support, but I am interested to know, as a company, what value do you see, what benefit do you get from being an exhibitor at Canada's Farm Show?
Yeah, I think as legend has it, we were #2 on the list of exhibitor signups. So we got in on the ground floor all those years ago, and it's always been an important show for us. One being that we're local, right? We're just down the road. It's our stomping grounds, and there's been a lot of pride at the show because the Degelmans were born and raised in the area. They have family, they have peers, and it was an opportunity to show. Before the internet, before everything, that was the opportunity to show what we're working on. Here's what we have to offer. And I know that it was always the show that we chose to introduce new products at. So if we had a new product, we always made sure it was ready and available at the farm show in Regina. And that meant if it was I'd get painted the night before in order to make it down there. That's what we did. So it was always an important show for us to showcase who we were as a company and what we were working on, and I think to this day it's still an important show for product introductions, and I think the show has actually really leaned into that as well with their, they have initiatives to introduce new products, so it's been important for us in that regard.
I think with Canada's Farm Show, we're hoping to hit the ground running again in June 21st to 23rd of 2022. We hope to be out there back on the grounds and welcoming exhibitors. But as a marketing manager, you have options. You have a lot of ways that you can reach your customers. So is there something about trade shows that works well for your manufacturing company?
Absolutely. I think if the last year has taught us anything, is that a lot of things can manage online with the internet, but it can only get you so far. It's easy to go to a website and get a snapshot of what that product offers, how much it weighs, how many grease zerks it has, etc. But at the end of the day, with a product like Degelman, you just can't beat that face-to-face interaction with a product like that, where you can go to the machine and look at the quality of the welds. You can look at the size of the tubing used. You can look at the greaseless pins, the oversized greaseless pins that just don't really, you can't get that idea online. But when you see it in person, it makes sense as to, that this is heavy duty, this is the next generation of what this should be. And so I think that the move to everything being online works for a majority of things, but nothing does beat that face-to-face interaction with the customer. You can hear from them how their year went. They can tell you what they're looking for in their equipment, and then you have an opportunity to sell them on what you think is the right tool for their application.
Yeah. Well, Derek, I can't wait to get back on the grounds at Canada's Farm Show in June, and we certainly hope that you will join us there. And by the sounds of it, there might be some wet paint that you might get on your shoes while you're kicking the new equipment.
Right.
But both Derek and I, hope to see you at this year's Canada's Farm Show, and you can catch all of those details on our website, on demand at canadasfarmshow.com.
At Viterra, we believe in the power of connection. Our world-leading agriculture network connects producers and consumers to supply top-quality food ingredients each and every day. Our team takes great pride in working closely with farmers to help feed the world. It's something we've been doing for over 100 years. And as an industry leader, we're dedicated to playing a critical role in meeting the needs of a growing world. Because together, we're stronger and achieve more.
Welcome to another segment of Farm Show TV. We are here on location at Black Fox Farms and Distillery, and I am joined by co-owners Barb, Stephanish, and Cody, and her husband John Cody. Thank you so much for hosting us today.
It's our pleasure.
So I really want to start with the name. As you drive into your property, it's absolutely beautiful, and the lanes are marked by this beautiful, curious black fox that decorates your logos. So do you have a story behind the name Black Fox Farms and Distillery?
We do. We had another farm to begin with, and when we were living on that farm, a black fox came to stay with us one summer. And where it's from the red fox family, it is just a genetic anomaly, and where a red fox has black tips on the ears and the tail, the black fox has white. And so it stayed around, and we felt that there are many Fox out there, but a Black Fox is unique. And there are many farms out there, but Black Fox Farm and Distillery is unique. And so that's where we felt that the name really resonated with our new operation.
That's a really beautiful story. What I know about Fox is that they're curious, and I am really curious to try these products. So at first glance, I did a little walk around, and what I have observed is that you are very busy. There is so much going on here. There's a lot of different projects, a lot of people coming and going, a lot of employees. I thought we should start with the distillery. So was it a love for whiskey and gin, or was it a desire to add value to your farm operation? Kind of walk us through how you ended up with a distillery as part of your farm operation.
It came down to wanting to share our passion for farming, and we wanted to connect with the consumer. So we used to be typical large-scale grain farmers that you would find in Saskatchewan, and we just wanted to do something different. We wanted to have a connection to the consumer. This is the way that we decided to do it, whether that's communicating or talking with our customers, or creating a product that's better than everything else because you know exactly what you're putting into the still when you start. That's how the partnership forms, because we're both very passionate about agriculture.
Okay, John, so tell me how many barrels I'm looking at here. I'm trying to do some quick math to determine how many ounces of whiskey I might be looking at.
So there's about 450.
It goes without saying, but these whiskey barrels are outside.
Yeah.
And we are in Saskatchewan, so my instinct would tell me we are somehow doing like ice whiskey or something. Tell me about the process here.
So what we're trying to do is let the environment that we raise our crops in, we're letting that environment affect the whiskey throughout its life. Every time you have these fluctuations of temperature, it actually is an aging cycle. So it's actually causing that whiskey to become smoother and the flavors more well developed, and it's working out really, really well for us.
I would think that Saskatchewan people would also feel that after a harsh winter, we've aged well and we're better for it.
So these are barrels of finished whiskey,
okay,
that are in wine casks. So this cask is a Marcella, comes from making Marcella wine, and it's got a malt whiskey in it, and it'll sit here basically until it's ready. It's already been here for about 5 years, but that's what's inside.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So I'm gonna let you smell that.
Is it like wine where you have to connoisseur it a little?
Yeah, well, it's all about the experience. So you should be able to, I always say you should be able to smell a dusty grain bin, or you should be able to smell that, you know, when the dust is hanging in the air at night, like during harvest time.
Yeah.
And it's almost hard to breathe because it's so thick. That's what a good whiskey should be.
Can I try it now?
Absolutely. So be careful. It is, in the barrel, it's about 60% alcohol, so it's quite strong.
So it's not a shot.
So it's not a shot. And just let it kind of swirl around your mouth and you'll get all those flavors.
It's divine. Really and truly.
Well, thank you.
I'm really proud to think that this came from this province. I could be a new whiskey drinker.
Yeah, no, whiskey is really interesting because it is absolutely dependent on the grain that you grow. Each part of it plays a role.
Do you find that the whiskey from this farm is unique in that capacity? Is most whiskey that we find on the shelf have a farmer growing the grains behind the bottle?
No, and that's the interesting part of whiskey. So in the wine industry, you would never even consider drinking a bottle of wine that just says, well, it's red wine. It's not, but you're always going to choose a wine from a region, from a specific kind of grapes, and nobody making wine would buy grain like we buy grain. So we buy grain here, and it's got to have a certain percentage of moisture, it's got to have a certain kind of dockage, and it's got to look a certain way. You'd never buy grapes like that. The guy making wine wants to know everything about it. The big distilling companies were never able to do that because they were so large. When they were procuring grain, it was coming from all over. So a lot of the Scotch in Scotland is made from barley from Alberta and Saskatchewan. So they have no choice on what's coming into their facility. Now these small distillers that are popping up all over the world, they're really all about being local. And then we have the further advantage of saying, well, we know what kind of crops to grow, and we know how to manage that crop so we can get more and more flavor out of it. So when we grow these grains, we can say, I want this particular variety because I know it tastes better, so I'm going to grow that. I'm going to fertilize it in a certain way because I know I can develop the flavors, and it's going to be nutritionally better for the yeast. And you can do all these really fun things as an agronomist in order to finally affect the whiskey. So this is all very new, and yet it's something that we're very familiar with in wine.
Really a fantastic story, John. This is beautiful. I see row upon row upon row of raspberries. And if there's anything I remember as a kid in the garden, it is picking raspberries. And admittedly, I ate more than actually went into the bucket. But how many raspberries does one farm need? And tell me about the connection with the raspberries and your distillery.
For sure. So what we do is we have 6 acres of raspberries here. And
that's a lot. That's
yes,
a lot of raspberries.
And we use it to make raspberry gin. That is the whole purpose of the raspberries.
Okay.
We have an older variety. It is called Boyne. And the reason we chose it is that there's a lot of newer varieties that the berries are sweeter and they're larger, but the Boyne raspberries have that real raspberry flavor, that flavor that that you grew up with as a kid.
Yeah.
And that's what we were after.
Very good. What you realize when you first step on your property are how many experiences that somebody who is visiting can have. They can come to the pumpkin patch. They can likely, in the middle season, come and see the raspberries. Do you get guests that pop in all throughout the year? What are the opportunities for people to come and visit you at the farm?
I think that's probably one of the things that surprised me most is the people that come back and again and again. And we have the pumpkin patch, but we have the cocktails on the patio, we have tastings, we do tours through the distillery. We do have our cut flowers where people can come and pick a bucket of cut flowers. And it's just a chance for them to come out and experience agriculture, which they sometimes don't get that opportunity. And we're close enough to the city that it's appealing for people to come on out.
You have a great website. How do people come in? How do people get in contact with you? How do they find out about you? Can you give us your details?
So most people will find us on the website, and we ask actually now that people do reserve a spot if they can, like through a booking system. Schedule yourself in, and the reason we do that is just to spread everybody out so that they get a really good experience is what we want them to do. And if they do show up without a booking, well, we're farmers. We can make do with what we've got, and so we welcome you as well.
Okay, so the last thing I need you to do is help me find a wagon because I need to take home some pumpkins. I think it's in every industry that is connected to agriculture.
Yeah.
There is, as you say, a preoccupation with weather because it feels like the third business partner.
It is.
You always have a business partner that is Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. Sometimes she's kind, sometimes she is really not kind, and we have to deal with what she delivers us.
We often talk about that Mother Nature can be a bit of a bag to work with, but yeah.
So Barb, this is a Haskap bush, which is, I think, fairly unique to Saskatchewan. So what are you using? The berries aren't here anymore, you've harvested them, but tell me more about the Haskap bush and the berry that comes from that.
The Haskap are actually native to Japan, Siberia, and northern Canada. And we had a professor at the University of Saskatchewan who took a real interest in the berry, and his name is Dr. Bob Bors. He did a lot of plant breeding to make them really well suited for the prairies. So with Haskap, the blossoms will withstand -7 degrees frost, which is pretty much unheard of. The berries come off early in the season, at the end of June, beginning of July, which makes them ahead of Saskatoons, ahead of sour cherries, ahead of raspberries and strawberries, anything else that we can grow here on the prairies. So as a fruit grower, it really expands your season. The last thing about them that's really unique is that they're very high in anthocyanins, so antioxidants. Some of the varieties will have up to 4 times what blueberries have, so they're poised to be a superfruit. And now we're just getting to the stage where you'll start seeing them in the grocery stores, because we're at that level where we have sufficient production to start moving them into the retail space.
Because it isn't a common berry that people are used to hearing and
Exactly,
seeing.
yeah.
But what I'm hearing from you, so the Hascat berry is in your gin.
Yes.
And the Hascat berry has antioxidants. So what I'm deciphering is that the gin is very healthy, and you should drink it just for the antioxidants.
There you go.
Really.
Well, I would love to tell you that, but Health Canada gets a little hinky when we start making those claims.
I think for me, having walked around the whole property, you can see that each of these different experiences, each of these value-added entities that you have are connected in some way, whether it's it would be hard to make a connection between a pumpkin patch and a distillery, but truly, and the calendulum that you're growing in the raspberries, but there really is a connection. I think any visitor that comes to this farm will see that there's a connection to each one of these different experiences and value-added processes that
And
you
I
have.
think that's what's really great about it, is because we'll take the mash, the leftover mash, and we'll use it as fertilizer and compost back on the flower fields, back on the raspberries and the Hascat. And it's just that recycle that goes round and round. So, regenerative ag, this is it.
It honestly, Barb, it feels pretty luxurious to be walking around a farmyard and have our sipping on a gin drink. Is this just because I'm with you, or is this allowed? Is this allowed on the farm property?
Actually, we've been very fortunate. The government has worked with us well to promote things like this, that you can take a cocktail out and go and enjoy the experience. And it really is a nice touch, because then you can actually almost taste what you're seeing.
We've talked about different experiences you can have here, but I feel like I could bring the kids here, we could do the pumpkins, we could pick flowers, but I also feel like it might be a date night. You could come here, have a cocktail, and wander around and just get a little getaway that's just outside of Saskatoon. It's really amazing what you have here.
Well, thank you. And we also, we've got a great team to help us pull off all of this, and the other part of it is we do bring in live music with local musicians, so it is perfect date night.
That's amazing. You brought up the word team, and that reminds me of some conversations I've had with both you and your husband, John, and I understand that the two of you are alumni of Canada's Outstanding Young Farmers Program, and this is a program I know many of our viewers will have heard of, the OYF program. It exemplifies farmers in their profession. And it's one of the few programs that encourages young farmers to get involved and to experience their own success.
Yes.
And my husband and I were nominated many, many years ago, and I remember feeling so overwhelmed and nervous about the process. It's rare for a farmer to be asked to talk about their business and then to share, a portfolio of their business. Can you share with us your experience with the OYF program and encourage more young farmers to get involved in that?
Absolutely. OYF for us introduced us to a whole family of people that were on the leading edge of agriculture. You have your connections back home, and you have your neighbors and your friends that are in the business. What OYF did for us is it broadened our outlook of agriculture. There were the farmers in Nova Scotia that had a greenhouse. We had the farmers in BC that had winery. We had bison farmers out of Ontario. There are so many different aspects to farming, and I think that was a real eye-opener for us. There were farms in Quebec that they bought and sold their farms every 5 years, and so which is almost sacrilegious for us here in Saskatchewan.
Totally new way of looking at it.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It was a total new way of looking at it, and it's really neat to have that opportunity to speak with other farmers that are on the leading edge, that are willing to try things and are willing to share their experiences. Like, they're willing to tell you, yes, I tried that, don't try it, it didn't work. But do this, or speak to this person, or, yes, I can help you with that. It's been an amazing network to be involved in. And so I would really encourage anyone who, if you are one who's a prospect for Outstanding Young Farmers, or if you know of someone who's a prospect for the OYF, to get involved. That initial process of filling out the form is daunting, but it's really worth it. The connections that we've made and the experiences and the learning that we've established has been second to none.
Very good. So if there are viewers that are hearing for the first time about the Outstanding Young Farmers Program, any piece of advice you could give to them to help them get over that I feel too nervous or I feel too humble, I'm not sure if I should participate, any advice you could give to them to participate?
I would say jump into it wholeheartedly. The process isn't that onerous. You know, they do ask for some information and they are going to vet it, but it is private. It's not like it's being spread around or anything like that. And it's just a chance to see how you're doing compared to others. You know, like maybe you are doing everything absolutely perfectly. Maybe you've got some room to grow. It works both ways.
The Outstanding Young Farmers Program is geared towards young farmers between the ages of 18 and 39 that derive 2/3 of their income from their farm operation. It can be farmers, it can be farm couples, and we want to encourage anybody who's interested in this program to go online. You can go onto our website at canadasfarmshow.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to this segment of Farm Show TV. You can watch on canadasfarmshow.com this segment and all other episodes on demand, your time, your way. Barb, it has been such a pleasure to visit with you at Black Fox Farm and Distillery. My drink is empty, my truck has a big trunk, so I need to go make some purchases. I need a wagon for some pumpkins, and again, I can't thank you enough for spending the day with me.
It was our pleasure, and do come back anytime.
Thank you. Let's hit the gift shop.
Grain headquarters? That's Regina, home of Viterra, who partners with farmers across Canada and America and Mexico to market and move their crops to customers in 60 countries. We're headquarters for your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From Regina, we feed the world. We are growing the impossible.